Now, this is the New You for the New Year webinar series, and we like to call it How to Overcome Lack of Focus, Procrastination, Self-Doubt to Make This Your Year for Outrageous Success. This is Dr. Herbert Harris, and I have the honor of being your trainer and speaker. I'm a retired attorney and an author. I've written 8 books, and probably the most well-known is the 12 Universal Laws of Success, which is sold over 700,000 copies in 8 languages. And probably the thing that I enjoy most is being CEO of the Life Skill Institute. And this is a corporation that is really committed to helping people be what they want to be, do what they want to do, and have whatever they want to have. We're also network marketing experts. We've been in the network marketing arena for over 30 years and are part of the $1 Million Earner group. And we enjoy sharing and helping people learn how to fly. So let's get started. This is session 4 of the New You for the New Year Transformational webinar. Last week's assignment, we had a number of things on page 17 of your workbook. Exercise 9, where we were attempting to identify some of your goals. Exercise 10 on page 19 is the most important exercise in the webinar experience. And it is the Draw Your Dream. And there are certain parameters we went through, a description of where you want to be in 5 years, who you want to have in your life, where will you be living, what will you be doing, and then to draw that and put it to paper. And so for our new people, do that. Don't worry about being an artist and a Picasso. You can do it with stick people. The idea is there's something spiritual about using your mind to create that vision. In our last class, we had some incredible sharings. And once a person has done that vision, done that drawing, and explained it to, well, one to themselves and to the group, it creates a picture that really makes it much easier for you to accomplish and to do it. I share the fact that in New York, Sylvia's restaurant, her son, Sylvia's son, Van, took our seminar years ago, and he drew, at that time it was a small restaurant, and he drew a complex, a restaurant, a sidewalk cafe, a jazz club, condos above, and it manifested exactly the way he had laid it out. And the paint, and that drawing is actually in his office still. We also had you put some time into how to develop your purpose, that we were all put here for an important reason and to take care of important things. And as a result, to look into how to develop your purpose, and that exercise on page 21. And the reading assignment was the law of action. And that is where we will be starting tonight. So this is session 4, and this is getting things done, making a success plan. Okay, good. We've got a great group here. And anyone else who is plugged in, just type in your name and hit send so that we can, so that you can see all the good stuff going on. Getting things done, making a success plan. I like to tell a story. Human beings have the ability to get things done, to choose to do things, and then to lay out a plan and get it done. We often talk about where this power comes from, and we tell the story, and it's an allegory, but the gods on Mount Olympus were when they were creating man, they wanted to know where to put this great power that man has, this ability to create things, to make things happen. We call it the power to get things done. And as a result, one of the gods said that this power should be placed at the bottom of the deepest ocean, because if it's put there, then man will never find it and he won't abuse it. Another wiser god said, no, man is very diligent and persistent. He'll figure out a way to get to the bottom of the ocean and find that power, and he will abuse it. Another god said, let's put it on top of the highest mountain on the planet. It'll be so difficult, he'll never be able to get there. But once again, the older, wiser god said that man is crafty and diligent. He'll get to that top of that mountain, he'll find that power, and he'll abuse it. And finally, the older, wiser god said, let's hide this power to get things done deep inside the core, the fabric of his being. Then, when he finds it, he will not abuse it. And so this session is about using your power to get things done in accordance with a system and the laws of success. The seventh universal law of success is the universal law of action. And to put it very simply, there's a great quote, but be you doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. And that's really about something that happens. We often call it, we say that people talk in the path and walk in the grass. And what we mean by that is that people will say one thing, but then do another. And so this idea of be you doers of the word means that you have to say what you're going to do and do what you're going to say. And so the seventh law of success is about being a doer of the word, being a person that the rubber sooner or later hits the road, and you either ride it forward or it will carry you somewhere else. Action is the bridge between conceptualization and realization. Many people have goals. Many people even write them down. Some people even go to the extent of actually writing out a business plan, a life plan, a course of action to get things done. But for some reason, the rubber never hits the road. They never take that step. They never move into the arena. They never go onto the battlefield. They never get into the game of life. And so action is that bridge between talking and doing. Let's put it like that. Conceptualization and realization. The law of action is really about how to do things effectively and efficiently. You can do things, and as we often say, life is like a garden. And so if you do things ineffectively and inefficiently, then the weeds, the negative people, the negative ideas, the negative experiences will overtake you and will choke and destroy your good. So the law of action is about how to get things done, how to get the things done that you want to have, that you want to get done. The law of action really focuses on four aspects. And the first is work. We call it the work, the employment, the business. In other words, each of us has some type of work, some type of exchange that we participate in, where we give our time and our skills in return for some type of financial remuneration. And so there's a part of the law of action that says that if you're going to be successful, you're going to have to handle this. You have to be able to provide food, clothing, shelter, health care, all of the basic things that you need for you and your family to be safe and secure. The second aspect is the planning aspect, that the work is the activity to be done, but the planning your actions to produce desired results. A plan is like a blueprint for success. You know, an architect may have this beautiful idea of the most impressive skyscraper, but if that architect does not reduce that idea to a blueprint, it will never happen. With that blueprint now, the skyscraper can pass from conceptualization to realization. The third aspect of the law of action is achieving your goals and your vision of life. That we are goal-seeking beings. That there is an aspect of our attributes, one of our great attributes, is that there's an innate desire to do something, to try to make things happen, to do things. Now, there are people that can neutralize that desire. People can become complacent and accept what is because they're afraid to grow into what can be. And so the law of action deals with achieving these goals of having a vision for your life and what you have to do to get from point A to point B. And then finally, the fourth aspect of the law of action is overcoming the obstacles and challenges that confront you. The process of success, the process of life, is that there will always be challenges. There will always be obstacles. There will always be things that you have to face, and you have to either grow through them so that you can move to the next level, or if you don't grow through them, you will go through them again and again and be stuck in a prison of mediocrity, in a comfort zone that is very uncomfortable. And so that is what the law of action is really about. Moving from the work, the planning, the achievement, and then overcoming the obstacles that will surely confront you. Let's look at this term work. In the dictionary, it says a means to earn a living. In other words, you may call it even a job, a job. But we like to look at work in a much broader sense. That work is the mental and physical effort or activity that is directed toward producing or accomplishing a particular result. And so that is why I told the story of the power to get things done, the power to make things happen. That work is really a spiritual evolution, an expression of something inside onto the outside world. That outside, that energy that's inside is really expressed through what you do to exchange your time, your efforts for money, the substance that will take care of you. We often talk of work as a spiritual evolution, that there's a part of us that we have to work. In other words, there's a natural habit in us that we have to do something. There are people that overcome it, but I think most of us who have that hunger for something better, for tomorrow to be better than today, there's this urge in us to do something. And so In the first instance, that something is work to earn a good living. But in a higher level, there's something we call right work. And so right work is a spiritual equivalent. Right work must be considered on an internal spiritual level. We should not look at work as a means to make a living, but rather as a means to live your making. So your work should really be an external expression of your internal state of being, your internal level of consciousness. I'm sure you've heard the comment that once you find something that you love doing, you'll never work again. And what it's really saying is that once you find that harmonic, that activity, that consciousness, that you can pursue it, and it will give you all that you need to take care of the material aspects of your life, but even more so, it helps you become a bigger, more powerful, more compassionate, more effective person doing greater and greater things. We often ask, well, why do you work? And what am I doing to find my right work? Well, there are a number of reasons I work, which we'll get into. But to start thinking of your right work, and one of the exercises is that what steps, if any, am I taking to identify my right work? My son once said, Dad, he said, how do you figure out what to do with your life? And I said, one of my teachers told me to identify what you love doing and then figure out a career path or work path that you can do that. He wanted to be a disc jockey, and he put himself in an environment where he was working in a radio station, but he was doing his homework. He was learning how to operate the machines. And one night when the midnight DJ did not show up, Sean was on it. The station manager called and said, I'll be there in an hour. And Sean said, don't worry about it. I got this. He found his right work, and he's been doing it ever since. So when we think about this right work, one of the key things is to evaluate your present position. If I'm going to achieve my right work, that thing that I can really put my teeth into, that thing that I can let my life, give my life to, then how do I evaluate where I'm at right now? And there are really three considerations to evaluate what we call your present situation. And this is very, very important, because sometimes we can look at our present situation and be discouraged. You know, many times we'll be working in a business or on a job, and we'll say, wow, we have not progressed the way we thought we would. We didn't get the promotions we thought we would get. That whatever our activity was, that it was not accepted or received by the world in the way that we thought it would, so that we would get the results, the benefits, the money, the fame and fortune. And so when we look at our present situation, we need to look at it from three aspects, because we may be looking at it wrong. So number one, when you look at your present situation, your present level of work, then one aspect of working is reasonable pay to maintain your lifestyle. If you're not getting paid, then you're going to be in big trouble. You know, there was a study done by, I think, the Social Security Administration, and over a period of 40 years, it found that, I think it was 43% of the people were dead over the 40-year period, and I think 47% were broke. And so basically there's a 90% chance that most people will either be dead or dead broke after 40 years of being in the game of life. And so looking at your present situation, are you receiving reasonable pay for the work that you're giving, for the time that you're exchanging? Definite consideration. Second consideration, what knowledge, experience, and training are you getting? Many times it's not the pay, but it's the knowledge, the experience, and the training that you can get. I'm a firm believer in these intern programs. And if you notice, many of the corporations really put a lot of effort into that. And I remember counseling young people, they said, well, they don't really pay you on the intern program and they'll send you to school, but I want to buy a car and things like that. And what you find is that the most valuable thing about the these programs, the intern program, is not the money now, but it's the knowledge that you'll get. And it's kind of a way for the corporation to measure your real desire for success, because if you hang around and you go through the different situations that they pose, then you can evolve into a valuable employee. A third consideration for looking at your present aspect is, what are the contacts, prestige, acquaintances? Who are the people you're meeting? And so now you may look at what you're doing to earn a living and reframe it. You say, well, you know, I'm working in I'm working as a bartender. You know, the pay is not great. I get some decent tips, but it's an upscale bar and I'm making some great contacts. One of my good friends, Ken, was working as a waiter in someone else's restaurant. But he was such a happy, outgoing person that one lady, a person had come in the restaurant a couple of times and, you know, kind of conversed with him. And after about the third time, the lady said to him, she said, you know, you have such a positive attitude. You know, you seem to really love what you're doing. How would you like to own your own restaurant? And, you know, he's like, yes. Well, this lady was a representative of the McDonald's Corporation. And it turned out that in, I think, a city in Michigan, there was a McDonald's that was in an area that was going through transition. And if you notice, you rarely see a McDonald's go out of business. You know, in other words, if a person who is an owner operator can't make a profit, then the company sort of takes it over. As a result of his contacts with that lady, he actually walked into ownership of a McDonald's. He did good, did well with that. He ended up getting a second one, and he sold the whole thing 10 years later for millions. So these three considerations to look at your present condition. The money is probably the least important. The knowledge and experience and training and the contacts and prestige and acquaintances you meet can be your platform for the future. I'll wrap this section up by saying, don't sacrifice future possibilities to satisfy present circumstances. I guess another way of saying that is, don't eat the seed corn. Once you have your goals and your vision in place, then you determine what your present situation is. So look at it from the aspect of where you're going to be and not where you are, so that you don't sacrifice future possibilities to satisfy present circumstances. All right, let's take a little break here. So everyone sit right up for a minute and take a deep breath and hold it. Let it out slowly. Good, good. Welcome, Johnny. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Let it out slowly. And I trust that everyone is seeing and hearing very well, and all the slides are moving nicely. Okay. Right, let's take one more deep breath. Hold it. Let it out slowly. Thank you so much, Carolyn. Back to our class. So the topic is success planning, and this idea of getting things done is really a part of what we call success planning. And success planning is a success plan is an organized course of action that allows you to produce desired results. And the operative word, desired results. And I'll tell you, you always produce results. You see, life is a constant experience of change and motion. And so if you choose to operate with no plan, you will get results, but most likely they're not going to be the results that you desire. So a success plan is a course of action that allows you to produce results. When you think about this, anytime you go to a bank, have anything to do with business, the first question they ask you is, what is your business plan? Because the banks and business people know that if you don't have a plan, as they say, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. If you don't have a business plan, then you will not be successful. In other words, they will not give you any money unless you have a solid plan that they can understand. Why should life be any different? And so in life, we must have a life plan, a success plan, for a plan for success in our lives that is just as meticulous and just as detailed, and that we follow it just as diligently as you would a business plan. It's only when you have a plan that you can get predictable results. And that's the key point, predictable. When a bank looks at your success, your business plan, they're looking for a predictable projection of success. And so in our life plan, our success plan, our life plan should give us predictable success. We often talk about the 360 degrees of reality, that this world is created in a dual way, a yin-yang, that there's a negative world and there's a positive world. As George Burns was playing God in the movie, Oh God, as he said, when the young man said, well, why does God create sickness and pain and negative things? And Burns said, although I'm God, I could never figure out a way to create an up without a down, to create light without darkness, to create health without sickness. And so the world is harmonic, and there's 180 degrees of negativity and 180 degrees of positivity. So positivity is where you want to be. I mean, there are people in prison, there are people who've done terrible things using the laws of success on the negative side, as they say in the Star Wars, the dark side. So the 180 degrees of positivity, the process of writing your vision, when we talked about that, write the vision, and that's right, to write the vision, to draw the vision. And once you have drawn your vision, then your goals are the stair steps that lead you to your vision. And so when you do a success plan, you take your vision as the skyscraper to be created, and the goals as the blueprint that will guide you to creating that skyscraper. And so the success planning is about being on the positive side, the possibility side, the good side, the abundant side. Because the negative aspect of the world will handle everything else. You never have to plant weeds, but you always have to plant flowers and tend the garden. So your success plan is the blueprint of your vision. Constantly monitor the productiveness of your plan. Once you've developed a success plan, it's a living thing. It's a daily experience in which you monitor what you get done. The reason that a business plan can produce predictability is because you monitor the plan each and every day. It's like when you were on a restaurant, you count up at the end of every day so you know how much money you took in and how much you spent. And so your life plan must be just as meticulous, and you must monitor it just as closely. So the 9-step method to make a success plan, and this we go into detail in the 12 Universal Laws of Success on page 124. But this is so much a recipe that if you follow it, you'll get the desired results. Step 1, to purchase a daily planner. Anyone who does not have a planner is not planning for a success. Not only must you purchase a daily planner, but you must live by the book. Your planner is the official daily record of your success journey. So in business, you have the ledger. In life, you have your daily planner. Step 2, write your vision, goals, and target dates in your planner. A friend of mine once said, well, I like to write my goals on these 3x5 cards. And, I told them they needed a planner, but they were very resistant. And you can only help people who want to be helped. They seem to be happy with it. Well, 2 months down the line, I happened to ask them, I said, let me see your vision card and your goal cards again. And they literally started patting themselves down because they couldn't find them. And so one of the reasons that you want to write your vision, your goals, and your target dates in your planner is because your planner will be with you at all times. And this way you can monitor it and do all the other things that you need to do. So commit to write your vision, your goals, and your target dates in your planner. All of us buy a planner, and generally that first 1 or 2 pages on most planners, if you look at it, they're blank. Well, those first 1 or 2 pages, that's where you want to write your vision, you want to write your goals, you want to write your target dates, because that's what you want to read over 2 or 3 times every day. This is a sheet, and I sent it out by email. All of the things that we're talking about has to be done in a compartmentalized fashion. And this is what I mean. That when we look at our life and we look at goals, it's important to break your goals down into different areas, because it can be very challenging to try to do them all at one time. So you have your personal goals. And so within your personal goals, you have the activities necessary to achieve your personal goals. You have your family goals. And so take each one of the goal areas, and you may add some, you may eliminate a couple, but I think these are pretty general. Your personal goals, and to write down what your personal goals are. Then your family goals. your employment and your career goals, your financial goals, your social goals, your community goals. You may add some spiritual goals. The idea, though, is there's a spiritual power that comes from writing it. You know, it says in the Habakkuk, it says, write the vision and make it plain upon tablets. That's write your vision, that he may run that readeth it. That's a plan. Though it may tarry, wait for it, that there will be obstacles and disappointments. Because in the end, it will speak. In other words, it will manifest. And so as we're doing this success planning process to break it up into different areas of your life, you may not need to work on them all at first. I'd say work on the ones that are most critical. If your employment is an area right now that's serious, then you may put 80% of your time into that area and 20% into the others. If finances are an issue, you may put 80% into your financial goals and a plan to change your finances and 20% in the others. But the point is to write it down and to break them into compartments so that you can approach each compartment almost like in a compartment type environment. So you're dealing with only those things to deal with that goal area. Number 3, list the actions necessary to accomplish your goals and when they must be performed. So you remember the diagram. We have your vision, and then you have the goals, which are the steps that lead you to your vision. And so list the actions necessary to accomplish your goals and when they must be performed. One of the forms I sent earlier is an attachment to an email, and it's a goal planning sheet. And so to start here, to write the goal, whatever that goal is, write the goal, and then list the activities required to get the goal. And so if you wanted to, let's say education goal, when I talk to high school students, I'm amazed at how many of them, and you say, well, what do you want to be? I don't know. Don't have a clue. Well, if they did have a clue, if you say, well, I want to become a businessman, I want to go in the corporate world. And so my goal is to get an MBA and work for IBM, for example. I remember someone that was their goal in a seminar once. And so the activities, well, what do you have to do? Well, you're in high school, you need to graduate. When you're graduating May of this year, so the goal is to graduate by May of this year with a 4.0 average. And then to apply for colleges by certain date. And so to list those activities, and as you begin to list them, something happens and you begin to paint a broader picture and you begin to put your subconscious power to work to make the activities you write down actually occur. Number 4, to write out a brief but complete narrative statement of how you intend to achieve your goal. This is your success plan. Let's look at this. Writing your success plan. An example. Right? My example, I want to buy a house in 2 years. And so if that is my goal, then what goals do I have to accomplish to get that? Well, to buy a house, one goal thing to be done is I have to have a down payment. And let's assume a down payment of $4,800. And another goal, I have to have my credit correct. And each one of these, you have to have a date now. So $4,800 in 24 months. And I have to have my credit tightened up now. Because you're going to need credit to buy the house, you really want to have a year of good credit. So your goal may be to get your credit set up by the end of the first year, so that you have a good year of good solid credit reporting. Another goal may be to pick out an area to buy the house. And another goal may be to find a proper school for your children. So the idea is each time you list these goals, you're painting a picture. And then step B, in order to accomplish my goals, I must do the following. So each thing that you put down. So for example, I'm moving in 2 years into a new house, and I need to accumulate $4,800. My savings right now are zero. So in order to accomplish that, I must create $4,800 in 2 years. Then I can back that down. I need to create $2,400 in 1 year. And then I can continue to break that down to a monthly activity. Number C, and did you see how that works? For example, to accomplish my goal, I need to save $4,800 in 2 years. So that means I need to save $2,400 in a year. And there are 12 months in a year. So if I break that $2,400 down into 12 installments, I need to save $200 a month. Let's start out with the first month and the first week of the first month. And so I need to save $50 a week, 4 weeks in a month, to have $200 at the end of the month. And so this is how you lay it out. Step C, the most important things that must be done to accomplish my goal. And so here you begin to lay out, you're sort of preparing for priority. So for right now, the number one important thing may be to develop a program to save $50 a week, and to do it immediately, because if I miss the first month, then I have to save more the second month if I miss the second month. So this idea of a success plan is an executable plan on a daily basis. So you list the most important things that must be done to accomplish your plan. Then you develop, number D is to identify the importance. In other words, you establish priorities. What do you have to do first? What do you have to do next? Let me go back here. And so when you go through this entire process, I mean, you can go through it in the book. It takes it on down to the different levels. Let me go back one. Okay. And so once you in D have established your priorities, when they have to be done and which ones are the most important ones to do, then you can proceed on down the tools, materials, resources, or supplies I will need to accomplish my goals. And so then you start putting the things. I may need to get a part-time job. I may need to find a credit agency that can get my credit score up, within 6 months. But these are where you lay those tools out. And then step F, the necessary tools will be obtained in the following fashion on or before. And so this then gives you a statement. And once you've written your goal statement, you may put it in front of your planner, and it may go something like this. My goal is to own a house in 2 years. In order to do that, I'm going to save $200 a month. I'm going to get my credit in order within the first year and get my credit score up to 620. And I'm going to, I have to find a proper school for my kids. And in order to do that, I'm going to start checking the internet for private schools and see what kind of scholarships they have available, because my money is not big money, but I'm sure my child is smart. And in order to do that, I'm going to check out some neighborhoods, and I'm going to spend time in the neighborhood so I can get the vibration for the neighborhood. In other words, when you can write this thing out using these elements to develop a narrative statement, a 1-paragraph statement that you can read over and over, that's your blueprint. And that skyscraper is going up. Exercise 23, my success plan for accomplishing my primary goals. To take that process, that formula for writing your success plan, and then to actually use it to accomplish at least one of your primary goals. Number 5, revise, study, digest, and memorize your success plan, so you can see the value of it. Once you've written that paragraph and you keep reading that thing over and over, your subconscious mind starts working to make it happen. Step 6, start right away doing the most important things first, then proceeding to lesser important ones. Now, this is really where the rubber hits the road. You see where it says start right away? If you have not done that diagnostic where you've written everything, and take your time and write it down, and the step by step and the dates, and you've torn up a bunch of pieces of paper, but when you finally write it down, now you can actually know what's the most important thing to be done now, and then you now have a game plan, and all you have to do is do it. Step 7, to develop a daily timetable showing all actions to be performed and the dates they must be done. Once you've laid out your goal, written down the actions that must be done and the dates they must be performed, you can now put them on your daily planner. And so now once you've listed all those things and the date to be performed, it's very easy now to go to your planner and pick up everything that needs to be done on the 10th and fill it in. And then you can look at all those actions on the 10th, especially when you pull them from different goal areas. And now you can reprioritize and say, well, it's most important that I do A and B. You know, although it's important to do C, C is not as important as A and B. If I don't save that money this week, then next week I have to save more. You know, sometimes when you have a timetable and you let people pull you off from your timetable, just an example, you're saving $200 a month. So then 2 years, you'll have your $4,800. And 6 months down the line, you've gotten yourself $1,200. And then somebody has an emergency. You got to bail somebody out. And they promise they're going to pay you back, your brother's son's cousin. And they promise they're going to pay you back. And you loan the money. And they don't pay you back. So now, for you to meet your goals, you now have to make up that money. And so if it was challenging to save $200 a month, now you have to revise your plan to say, I got to save $400 a month now to get where I need to be at the end of this first year. Or I may stretch it out over 18 months. Say, okay, I have 18 months. Let me recalculate. So instead of $200 a month, I may have to save $255, $275, $300. But it's this type of diagnostics that will make the difference in achieving your goals. Number 8, based on that, plan all actions that must be performed each day. I like to call that your run sheet. That once you've distilled all this stuff down to have 7 or 8 things that you got to do today, then that's where the rubber hits the road. All you have to do is do it. Now, you can still blow it because you can procrastinate. Or you may overwhelm yourself by putting too many activities on for any one day. So you get frustrated and say, well, you know what? This planning thing doesn't work. Number 9, monitor your efforts closely and evaluate your results. This goes back to writing your stuff down. If you don't write what's going on each day, the list of things to do, the results of your efforts during the day, you have nothing to monitor. I mean, there's a reason why 90% of the people who come up 40 years after they've been out from high school, while they're broke or unsuccessful, because they don't do this, they don't follow this recipe. So what does it take to achieve your goals? We're going to go into that. Let's take a little breather. We've been pushing pretty hard. Let's check in. All is well. All right. Let's take a deep breath, folks. Just relax for a minute. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. All right. Back to the class. So what does it take to achieve your goals? We talk about a formula for achieving your goals. A 1-year goal would be an intermediate goal. That's a goal more than 90 days, less than 2 years. So you set a goal for 1 year. So simply doing the house goal. So write each goal where you can see it many times a day. So your goal for 1 year is to accumulate $2,400 to buy your house next year. Get your credit up to 630. Have a good idea of the schools you would like to send your child to. Check out the neighborhood so now you can be more focused to talk to a realtor. In other words, when you lay it out like that, doesn't it seem simple? So set your goal for 1 year. Determine what must be done to accomplish your goal. So write each and everything that must be done to accomplish your goal. List the things that must be done in the order of their importance. Write the date each activity must be started and when it must be completed. One way that we undermine ourselves is to set an activity and don't leave enough time to get it done. And so it can throw off our planning. So not only when you start it, but also when you will finish it. Number 3, once you've done that for the whole year, set monthly goals that will lead you to your full year goal. So if you had made that decision, for example, in January, well, you have your full year goals. And so January goals may be, well, one goal is to save $200 because you don't want to get behind. Another goal might be to contact a credit agency to start out interviewing them. And you lay down the goals for each month of that first year. Make the list of things that must be done to accomplish your full year goal. Arrange them by date to be completed. Review this list and list what must be done each month to guide you to your full year goal. Can you imagine if you had done this last year and you had laid out each monthly goal? See, one of the values of doing this is it's hard to look at a written monthly goal and don't do it. You have to fess up and say, I'm just lazy. I know what to do. I just choose not to do it. Most people don't know what to do because they never wrote it down. Step 4, determine what you must do to accomplish each monthly goal. So you can take that sheet where we said goal and the activities to be performed and the date to be performed, the date to be started and ended. The items listed for each month become the basis for your monthly goals for each of the 12 months. And now the rubber's hitting the road. Focus on your first month's goals. Organize the items necessary to achieve your first month's goals by date to be accomplished and priority. See, we're bringing it home now. If we're at the first of the year, then January, this is it. April goals are important, but January is where we're at, and that's where our focus and energy is going to be. So take that first month, January, for example. Set weekly goals for the first month. List by date and priority the items necessary to accomplish your first month's goals. They become the basis for your weekly goals. Analyze this list by date to be started, date to be completed, and the priority of importance, and write the most important things to be accomplished each week of the first month. All right, folks, the rubber's coming down on the road. Step 6. Determine what must be done to accomplish the goals of the first week of the first month. The rubber's on the road. Analyze your first week's goals. Determine each and every action that must be performed to accomplish your first week's goals. List these actions by priority and date to be accomplished. So at this point, it's hard to not perform. If you put this much energy into laying it down, you have better, stronger faith that you'll get it done. Step 7, set daily goals for the first week of the first month. Based on the list of things to be done to accomplish your weekly goals, set daily goals that will lead you to your weekly goals. Step 8, determine what actions must be performed each day to accomplish your daily goals. The rubber has hit the road. List each day's required activities in the order of their importance and do the most important things first. You live by the book and you follow this formula, there's nothing you can accomplish. There's nothing that you cannot accomplish. Number 9, keep a record of your achievement. Back to the planner. You see, in your planner, you should have everything relevant to the goals you set, the list of activities, and what you did. Cross off each item on your daily list as you complete it and try to complete everything on your list for each day. If you do not complete everything on your list, you have to carry the items over to the next day and merge them in with the things to be done that day. This shows you why each day should be treated like a day-type compartment, where you put forth all the energy to do the things of today so that tomorrow you don't get an accumulation of undone things. Because if you had 7 things to do today and 7 things to do tomorrow based on your plan for that week, and you only do 3 of them today, then tomorrow you have 7 plus 4, 11 things to do. So if it was hard to do 7, look at the challenge to do 11. And that's why we have to live in day-type compartments where each day we do what must be done. Number 10, learn from past failures, but don't let them slow you down. If you find that you're not accomplishing your daily tasks, don't be discouraged. Analyze each day's activities and determine what's slowing you down. Sometimes you permit too many interruptions to come in. Sometimes you set out too much to do. Sometimes you just let yourself get overwhelmed and start puttering and start suffering from procrastination. Devise a plan to improve your performance and then implement that plan right away. Number 11, this is heavy, folks. Avoid wasting time. Time cannot be repeated or replaced. The main obstacle to completing each day's activities is improper use of your time, letting yourself be interrupted, operating in a disorganized fashion, spending too much time on the telephone, being tired. You know, if you don't get your proper rest, you're tired, you can't function at full efficiency. Each moment, ask yourself, what is the best use of my time right now when I consider my goals, my vision, and my purpose? Every time you think about sitting down and taking a break and watching TV and chilling, you ask yourself the time question. And if the goals you set out are important, you'll get up and get moving. Number 12, repeat this procedure without fail. Repeat your weekly routine for each week of the first month. revising and improving as required. Evaluate your performance at the end of each week. Resolve to do better. Follow the same procedure for each month of the year. When you constantly revive and improve your performance, you'll grow in faith and self-confidence. Every day that you get done what you set out to do, you become a tiger for tomorrow. Stick to your goal until it is accomplished. When you have this recipe, there will be times when you get off track. There will be situations that come about that, will just, things happen that just knock you out of the box. But a winner never quits, and a quitter never wins. Whether you attain your goals or not is in your hands. If you refuse to accept failure, no matter what, you will succeed. I was the championship game recently in the Super Bowl. The team that won was a team that refused to lose. Nobody has ever come back from such a deficit and won the Super Bowl. The facts would say you can't do it. The statistics would say you can't do it. But your willpower is so strong that the facts don't matter. This portion I'd like to wrap up with a poem from C.W. Longnecker. And it says this: if you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you don't, if you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win, but think you can't, it's almost certain you won't. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high and rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you will ever win a prize. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man, but sooner or later, the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. And that's really what it's about when we talk about getting things done. The last portion, how to overcome obstacles, is more of a mindset. Don't let the appearance of an obstacle create an atmosphere of failure. There's a nice section in the book on how to overcome obstacles. That 9-point formula for situation resolution is awesome. In other words, whenever there's an obstacle, write it down. It's something about writing it down that takes a lot of the scariness out of it. Analyze the situation. Write it down. Think it out. List all alternative solutions. It's interesting. Once you start listing all the alternative solutions, the challenge doesn't seem that big anymore. Evaluate all possible outcomes. Number 5, determine if your solution, your choice, is a selfish one. Sometimes you're put in situations where you make a certain choice, but it's purely to satisfy your ego. And that's going to create a challenge in the future. Number 6, picture the consequences. I'm going to say that again. Picture the consequences. Whatever you want, picture it. We become what you can picture, not necessarily what you want. Number 7, get advice, but make the decision your own. I had a big choice to make, and I called someone to get advice. This is last week. When you get advice from somebody who's been there, who's walked a mile in those moccasins. Get advice from somebody who's more successful than you. Get advice authentically. I've seen people ask me for advice and then try to defend what they're doing. Get that advice, but make the decision your own. I'm so glad I asked for the advice, because if I had done what I was thinking of doing, it was a bad decision. Number 8, stick to your decision. And number 9, put your decision into action immediately. When my coach, my friend, told me not to do something. When he gave me his advice, I acted on it right away because I knew he was right. All right, we have completed this session 4 and some exercises in your workbook. Exercise 24 on page 49 of the workbook. Exercise 25 on page 51. And then read the chapter 8, the law of value. Next week is session 5. And we'll be talking next week about solving the riddle of survival. We're going to be talking about making a budget, because a part of the riddle of survival is to know where your money is coming from and where it's going. So I will send the budget forms out probably along with the replay of this, and we'll get you the replay by tomorrow. But solving the riddle of survival next week, next class, session number 5. Our next mastermind session, and I've decided to add another mastermind session. In an earlier group that we've been working with, it became obvious that we needed an extra mastermind session. It was so important that we do the Zoom and we interact and we see one another. So our second mastermind session comes after session 4, this one. And so that will be next week, next Wednesday at 9 p.m. for the second mastermind session, next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Don't forget our closed Facebook page. I think all of you are members. If not, go to our closed Facebook page, New You, for the new year, and join, and we will admit you right away, but I generally add everybody who's in the webinars. All right, folks, this is Dr. Herbert Harris completing session number 4, how to get things done, of the New You for the New Year webinar presentation.